right, I want everyone to focus on what we're about to cover right now. In fact, we're going to search this and put it on screen for you. Radioactive isotopes covered up in Texas water. Remember 2 weeks ago it came out in the Houston Chronicle, CBS News, that they were finding uranium in most Texas water supplies that isn't even in the groundwater, and that the feds had been covering it up with the state. Now, I pointed out that uranium is in the phosphate deposits where they're mining the sodium fluoride. Now, right where I live, there's uranium in the water. And the hippies will get mad if you cut a tree down to build a shed, but they're like, give me uranium. I want it. I mean, this is eugenics. This is population reduction, and it's going to air tomorrow night. And it just makes me so angry, folks, that this is going on. Michael Braverman, executive producer. He's produced many national television programs. And, of course, he also helped produce Jesse Ventura's TV show on MSNBC. And he's produced a television program from CBS Primetime Television. I'm not going to go through it all, but he's produced shows for A&E. But Michael Braverman joins us now to give you a sneak peek into what they discovered. This all started out just to look into foreign corporations stealing water and gobbling it up to jack up prices. IMF World Bank documents. Only one part of the show. Michael, tell us as much as you can about the premiere tomorrow night.
Well, you know, Alex, it's one of those things that's pretty similar to what we talked about 2 weeks ago. You know, I come to this with sort of an open mind. I'm kind of an agnostic about a lot of this stuff because, you know, I sort of got into this, as you know, as a TV producer, and we started looking into this issue about water. Somebody said, y'all ought to look into this because there's a lot of foreign companies sucking out water from places like the Great Lakes. And I was like, well, okay, let's look into that. So I put the staff on it, and I started to look into it. And what we discovered is it's not only true, it's massive. And I'll start with one example. And by the way, anybody who's listening to this can just get on the computer and Google it, and you'll see that it's, as you say, right out there in plain sight. There's a place called Stanwood, Michigan. And I'm going to get you the uranium in a second, but I want to give you the backstory, and I want to give your listeners the background of this. It's a place called Stanwood, Michigan. It's way up in the north. It's pretty rural. Actually, it's in the central part of the state. It's pretty rural. It's pretty depressed in terms of the economy. So Nestle Waters of America, which is a subsidiary of a giant multinational corporation called Nestle, which we've all heard of, builds this big plant in Stanwood, Michigan. And they ain't making Nesquik. What they're doing is they're bottling water, which they're sucking up from Lake Michigan, and bottling it and selling it under the brand Ice Mountain, which you've probably all seen in the store. Okay. The state of Michigan leased them all of this water and leased them the land for the plant for, guess how much? I'll tell you, $100 a year under ex-Governor Engel's administration. $100 a year. So what Nestle did, being the smart corporation they are, is they didn't put their pumps on the shoreline of Lake Michigan, where everyone could see them and they'd be an eyesore and they'd attract a lot of attention. No. What they did is they put their massive pumps 12 miles inland on a private game preserve, where no one can see them, no one can hear them. And when you all watch the show tomorrow night, you'll see that we try to get in there. Jesse tries to get in there, and you can't get in it. And these huge pumps are sucking up thousands, millions, and millions of gallons of our water, America's water, good water, a year. And they're piping them to this big plant in Stanwood, Michigan, and the tankers go out every few minutes. Every few minutes, those tankers are going out filled with bottles of water. The Nestle Corporation pays $100 a year to exploit.
Nobody can compete against somebody like Nestle paying $100 a year for millions of gallons of water.
No, you can't. And
I mean, I pay hundreds a month for water.
Sure. And their story is, well, we provide employment in an area that needed employment. All true. Yeah, I can't dispute that they do. A lot of people, a lot of locals got jobs. There's jobs for truckers, there's jobs for everybody.
But it shows how insiders play by a different set of rules.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. When we unravel this conspiracy about water, layer by layer by layer. And what you're going to hear is, as we start with this plant in Stanwood, Michigan, where, all this stuff is being, all this water is being taken, and then what you discover is there are three big multinationals all over the world, and what they're doing is they're privatizing water. They go into municipalities, they go into states, they go, hey, you guys are government, you guys are idiots, you don't know what you're doing, which is a pretty good argument to make. What we're going to do is we're going to take over your water supply, we're going to take over your municipal water system, and we're going to run it better, and we're going to pay you a royalty. And a bunch of cities and states go, cool, let's go. And then what you discover is just like insiders all over the world, as you pointed out, Alex, suddenly the rules change. The price gets jacked up. The water quality isn't as good. All kinds of stuff starts to happen. And you can't, a lot of these deals, these smaller towns, they can't get out of them. Because, Nestle and a couple other French companies, Veolia and Suez, are the biggest ones. None of them, by the way, are American companies.
Yeah, there's German, there's Dutch, there's...
the biggest three are French and Swiss. There's, Britain has Thames Water. And if you look in all over the world, in third world countries, like developing world countries, these companies go out there and they buy up huge amounts of water, and you can't kick them out. Now, here's what you got to realize. As we pull back the layers, in this show, what you're going to find out is the big oil families, the big oil players, suddenly are getting into water. Water, we've all seen its headline, water is the new oil. And one of the primary families doing this are our friends, the Bushes. The Bushes have bought 98,000 acres. I want everyone to just picture that for a minute. 98,000 acres in South America. It's in an area actually that borders different countries. It's near Paraguay, and where Paraguay hits Brazil. Right there on the southern border of Brazil, the northern border of Paraguay. Why did they buy 98,000 acres? I'll tell you. Because it sits over the world's largest aquifer. Excuse me, the largest aquifer in the Western Hemisphere. Sorry, there's a larger one in Russia. Anybody can get on Google, point and click, and you can see what I'm talking about.
And then they lobby all over the U.S. and Europe to ban you having your own well or collecting rainwater, just like their Food Safety Act shuts down you growing food at your own farm because they're creating artificial scarcity.
Yes, I didn't realize there are laws to... You mean I can't sink my own well in a lot of places?
Yes, and they're the ones lobbying for it.
Oh, sure. They want to control... If you wanted to control a population... Let's say you were a particular group of elites and you wanted to control a population. Well, there's two ways that are the most efficient way to do it. You control the water and you control the food. That's pretty much the best way you can do it. You cannot live more than 2 weeks without water. You can't. Usually you will die within 3 or 4 days.
Talking to the crew, you guys have really been wound up about water, and you should be, because in your investigation, it's not just they're creating an oligopoly, not just creating artificial scarcity, not just running these scams, not just trying to keep us from getting our own water, but they're adding stuff to the water. Michael Braverman, stay there. Let's continue. This is riveting. This affects everybody. Our bodies are 75% water. Water is life. And this just shows how dastardly these robber barons are, these new water barons. We'll be right back. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.tv. Well, I mean, tomorrow night you're going to expose that the government's putting uranium in the water to sterilize us. I mean, folks, and what's incredible is you exposed the UN climate fraud, shot it months before, and then it aired right as ClimateGate came out. Yep. Now it's breaking in Texas news that they're covering up the uranium in the water right as you come out with it. But, I mean, just to interrupt, this is a short segment. Let's go over the bullet points that we're allowed to reveal here. Okay. Ventura reveals that foreign companies are stealing water from the Great Lakes. The Nestle Corporation stashes these 12 pumps miles away from the shoreline of Lake Michigan in a private game preserve where no one can see them. You'll finish up with Pickens here in a minute in Texas with his fake town up in the Panhandle. Great Lakes levels are dropping, and some streams and groundwater sources have already dried up. They're shipping it to...
By the way, I'm just going to stop you. When you guys watch the show, when your listeners watch the show, you will see us, and we shoot a thing, and we got a local guy, and he goes, see that over there? We have a new name for that. That's called the dead stream. The dead stream, and that's because of this water pumping. So this is happening, I don't mean to interrupt, Alex, but this stuff is happening right now. It's right under our noses. It's right,
and it's being shipped to China.
I'm sorry?
The show also shows these giant... Tell them about the water bags.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's another thing. There's a technology out there, and again, you all can Google this. It's called the Sprague bag. It's based on a guy named Larry Sprague who invented it. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to make these giant floating water bladders.